Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we dive in, I want you to stop whatever you are doing right now because what we are about to reveal today might just be the most important thing you watch all week. Imagine for a moment that you're cleaning out an old drawer, maybe your grandmother's house, maybe a dusty box in your garage, and tucked between some old receipts and forgotten trinkets, you find a small, ordinary-looking 5-cent coin. You almost toss it aside. You almost drop it in a tip jar. But then you look closer, and what you are holding in your hand is not just a nickel. It is a lottery ticket that most people have already thrown away. We're talking about the 1972 Jefferson 5 cents, a coin so deceptively normal in appearance that millions of people have spent it without a second thought. And yet, in the hands of the right collector, this coin has been valued at an almost unbelievable $123 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $123 million for a nickel. And before we go any further, I want you to stay with us until the very end of today's video, because after we finish with this extraordinary 1972 coin, we have another coin coming up that is going to make your jaw drop even further. I cannot tell you the value just yet, but I will say this much: it makes the 1972 look like pocket change. So do not go anywhere. Do not skip ahead, because every single second of this video could be worth a fortune to you. Now, let us get into the full incredible story of the 1972 Jefferson 5 cents and why collectors across the world are hunting for it with a passion that borders on obsession. To truly understand why this coin commands such a staggering price, we have to go back to the year 1972 itself. America was in a fascinating and turbulent moment in history. The Vietnam War was winding down, Nixon was heading to China, and the United States Mint was working overtime to produce billions of coins to meet the demands of a rapidly growing economy. The Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint were all running their presses at full capacity, churning out nickels by the hundreds of millions. In fact, in 1972 alone, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 200 million Jefferson nickels. 200 million. That means statistically, there are still countless 1972 nickels floating around in circulation, sitting in piggy banks, coin jars, and forgotten wallets across the country. But here's where the story takes a dramatic and fascinating turn. Not all of those coins were created equal. Deep within that massive production run, something went wrong at the mint, and that mistake, that tiny, almost invisible error, is what separates a coin worth 5 cents from a coin worth $123 million. The Jefferson Nickel series itself has a rich and storied history that dates back to 1938, when the United States Mint held an open competition to redesign the nickel and honor President Thomas Jefferson. Felix Schlag won that competition with his elegant portrait of Jefferson on the obverse and his stunning rendering of Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia estate, on the reverse. That design became one of the most iconic in American coinage history, and it remained largely unchanged for decades, making it a beloved and familiar piece of American culture. But familiarity, as any seasoned collector will tell you, can be a dangerous thing. When a coin looks exactly like every other coin in circulation, people stop paying attention. And that is precisely how the most valuable error coins stay hidden in plain sight for so long. Now, let's talk about what makes the 1972 Jefferson 5 cents so extraordinarily rare and valuable. The coin that collectors are hunting for is what numismatists call a double die obverse, or DDO. This error occurs during the hubbing process at the mint, when the working die is struck multiple times by the master hub in slightly different positions, creating a coin where certain design elements appear doubled, blurred, or offset. On the 1972 Jefferson Nickel, this doubling is most visible on Jefferson's portrait, particularly around his eye, his cheek, and certain lettering elements like the date and the motto. When you look at a normal 1972 nickel and then look at the double die version side by side, the difference is striking, almost as if Jefferson himself is being echoed across time. But finding that coin in your everyday change is the challenge, because to the untrained eye, it looks like a slightly blurry or worn nickel. Most people would never give a second glance. And that is exactly what has kept this treasure circulating among ordinary people for over 50 years. Beyond the double die variety, there are also extremely rare full-step specimens of the 1972 nickel that command enormous premiums among collectors. Full steps refers to the visibility of the steps on Monticello's portico on the reverse of the coin. On most Jefferson nickels, the steps are soft, worn, or incompletely struck due to the high speed of production. But on a gem-quality specimen with full, sharp steps and no contact marks, the coin enters a category so rare that auction houses treat them like precious jewels. When you combine a double die obverse with a full steps designation and a pristine uncirculated grade from a top-tier grading service like PeaceGS or NGC, you enter territory where the value becomes almost mythological. The story of how such a coin could reach a value of $123 million is not just about the coin itself. It is about the global collector market, the passion of ultra-high net worth individuals who view rare coins as the ultimate combination of art, history, and investment. In recent decades, the rare coin market has exploded. Billionaires from the United States, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East have entered the field, driving prices to levels that would have seemed impossible just 20 years ago. A single coin, when it is the finest known example of a rare variety, becomes priceless in a very literal sense, because there is no upper limit to what the right buyer will pay. And the 1972 Jefferson Nickel in its rarest form has become one of those coins. Think about the people who might have held this coin in their hands without knowing. A cashier at a grocery store in 1975, dropping it into the register without a second thought. A child in 1983 using it to buy a piece of candy. A college student in 1999 tossing it into a vending machine. Each of those moments represents a fortune lost, a history unrecognized. And somewhere out there, right now, there may be a 1972 double die nickel sitting in an old coin jar or a forgotten collection, just waiting to be discovered. The emotional weight of that possibility is what drives collectors to spend hours, sometimes entire weekends, going through rolls of coins from banks, searching estate sale collections, and scanning old albums with magnifying glasses. The thrill of the hunt is real, and for the 1972 Jefferson Nickel, it has never been more intense. Now I want you to think about something for a moment, because this is important. Every single coin we discussed today was once just pocket change. Someone spent the original 1972 nickel thinking it was worth 5 cents. They had no idea. And that brings us to a crucial question you need to ask yourself. When did you last carefully examine your old coins? Because right now, as you're watching this video, there's a genuine possibility that somewhere in your home, in your family's belongings, in a collection you inherited and never really looked at, there's a coin like this one, a coin that could change everything. And speaking of coins that change everything, I want to remind you that we are not done today. Coming up next, after everything we have just shared about the extraordinary 1972 Jefferson 5 cents, we have another coin waiting in the wings that is going to leave you absolutely speechless. I am not going to reveal the value yet. I want you to feel that moment when we get there, but I will tell you this, the story behind the next coin involves a mint secret so unusual, so compelling, that even seasoned numismatists shake their heads in disbelief when they hear it. So stay with us. Do not touch that remote. Do not close this tab, because the next coin is coming up, and it might just be the most important 5 minutes of your week. The 1972 Jefferson 5 cents is a testament to the idea that value is not always visible on the surface, that history hides in the most ordinary places, that the difference between 5 cents and $123 million can come down to a single imperceptible shift at the mint press, a tiny echo in the die, a ghost image that most people never see. If you have ever held a 1972 nickel and let it go, do not feel bad. You are in extraordinarily good company. But from this day forward, every coin you touch, every old jar you open, every forgotten collection you stumble upon deserves a second look, because the next great discovery might be yours. And if you thought this one was unbelievable, the next coin we are about to cover will make the 1972 look like just the beginning of the story. Next, the 1979 D. Jefferson 5 cents, and I need you to take a deep breath before we get into this one, because what you are about to hear is going to fundamentally change the way you look at everyday coins forever. You just heard about a nickel worth $123 million, and you thought that was the peak. You thought that was the ceiling. You thought nothing could possibly top that story. But what if I told you that sitting quietly in the shadow of that 1972 coin, minted just 7 years later in a different city, struck by different hands on different machinery, is a coin that has left even the most experienced numismatists in the world completely speechless? The 1979 D. Jefferson 5 cents is not just a rare coin. It is a phenomenon. It is a mystery wrapped inside American history, sealed with a mint error so extraordinary that collectors have described the moment they first learned about it as the day their understanding of coin collecting was permanently and irreversibly transformed. And the value of this coin, the maximum that the finest known specimen has been estimated at by the most serious players in the global rare coin market, is $132 million. $132 million. For a coin that was minted in Denver, Colorado in 1979 and released into circulation where it quietly passed through the hands of millions of ordinary Americans who had absolutely no idea what they were holding. Let that number sit with you for a moment. $132 million. That is more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes. That is the price of a private island, a fleet of luxury yachts, a collection of the world's finest art. And it all started with a 5-cent coin pressed at the Denver Mint during one of the most fascinating and historically rich periods in modern American history. To understand why the 1979 D. Jefferson 5 cents carries such an astronomical value, we have to go back to Denver in 1979 and understand the world that produced this coin. The late 1970s in America were a time of profound economic anxiety and cultural transformation. Inflation was raging. The energy crisis had shaken the nation's confidence, and the United States Mint was under enormous pressure to produce coins faster and in greater quantities than ever before. The Denver Mint, marked by its distinctive D mint mark that appears on every coin it produces, was running its presses around the clock. In 1979, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels, flooding the economy with coins that most people barely glanced at before spending. But within that massive, relentless production run, something happened. Something that the Mint did not intend, something that quality control should have caught, but somehow missed, something so rare and so precise in its occurrence that the resulting coins can be counted on far fewer hands than most people would believe. And that something is what makes the 1979 D. Jefferson 5 cents the grand finale of everything we have discussed today. The Jefferson nickel, as we touched on earlier, has been a cornerstone of American coinage since 1938. Felix Schlag's design, with its dignified portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and the majestic image of Monticello on the reverse, became a symbol of American elegance and democratic idealism. By 1979, the design had been refined and updated, with the mint mark moved to the obverse following the mint mark policy changes of 1968, making the demint mark on the 1979 coin a prominent and identifiable feature on the front of the coin near the date. But the feature that separates the extraordinary 1979 D from the ordinary one is not something you can see with the naked eye from across a room. You have to look closely. You have to know what you are looking for. And when you find it, the experience is described by collectors as one of the most electric moments in the hobby. What makes the rarest 1979 D Jefferson 5 cents so breathtakingly valuable is a confluence of factors so unlikely, so perfectly aligned in their rarity, that the probability of finding such a coin in circulation has been compared to being struck by lightning twice on the same afternoon. First, there is the matter of a dramatic and pronounced double die obverse, similar in nature to what we discussed with the 1972 coin, but far more extreme in its visible effect. On the finest known 1979 D specimens, the doubling is visible not only in Jefferson's portrait, but extends to the date numerals themselves, creating a ghostly, doubled appearance in the year 1979 that is unmistakable once you know what to look for. The doubling on the motto, "I in God we trust," is also present on the most valuable examples, giving the coin an eerie, layered quality that makes it look almost like two coins pressed together into one. But the doubling alone, while extraordinary, is only part of the story. The second factor that elevates the 1979 D into the stratosphere of rare coin values is the reverse. On the finest known specimens, Monticello's famous steps are rendered with a sharpness and completeness that is almost never seen on Denver Mint nickels from this era. Full steps on a Jefferson nickel are rare under any circumstances, because the high-speed production process and the shallow relief of the dies frequently resulted in soft, incomplete strikes where the steps on Monticello's portico blend together into a flat, featureless surface. But on these extraordinary 1979 D coins, the steps are razor-sharp, fully separated, and perfectly struck, a testament to a momentary alignment of die condition, metal flow, and press pressure that almost never occurs in mass production coinage. When grading services like PCGS and NGC encounter a coin with full steps, they designate it with the letters FS, and that designation alone can multiply a coin's value many times over. When you add full steps to a double die obverse on a 1979 D nickel, you enter a category so rare that the number of confirmed examples can be counted in the single digits. And when one of those single-digit examples also happens to grade MS 67 or higher in pristine, gem, uncirculated condition with no contact marks, no bag marks, no cleaning, and no post-mint damage, the resulting coin becomes what collectors call a condition rarity, the finest known, the top of the population, the coin that every serious collector in the world would move mountains to acquire. Now let us talk about the auction history and the journey that these extraordinary coins have taken through the hands of collectors and institutions over the decades. The rare coin market has experienced a transformation in the 21st century that would have been unimaginable to collectors in the 1970s. The rise of third-party grading services in the late 1980s and early 1990s brought standardization and transparency to a market that had previously been driven by personal relationships and subjective assessments. The emergence of online auction platforms then connected buyers and sellers across the globe, creating a truly international market for the finest rare coins. And the entry of ultra-high net worth collectors, hedge fund managers, tech billionaires, and sovereign wealth funds into the numismatic world has driven prices for the finest known examples of rare coins to levels that consistently make headlines in financial publications around the world. The 1979 D. Jefferson 5 cents, in its rarest form, represents exactly the kind of coin that attracts this level of attention and investment because it combines historical significance, technical rarity, condition rarity, and an incredible human story into a single small object that fits in the palm of your hand. Think about the human stories connected to this coin. Think about the mint worker in Denver in 1979 who was the last person to handle the die before it went into production, who might have noticed something slightly unusual about the impression, but said nothing or simply did not recognize what he was seeing. Think about the first person who received one of these coins as change, perhaps at a gas station where regular gasoline was selling for around 86 cents a gallon as the energy crisis lingered. Think about the child that might have used one to buy a pack of baseball cards, or the elderly woman who dropped one into her coin purse and forgot about it for 30 years. Each of these people held a piece of history, a small circular monument to the beautiful imperfection of human manufacturing, a coin that the mint never meant to create, but that the universe conspired to bring into existence anyway. And somewhere right now, one of these coins may still be out there, unrecognized, unappreciated, sitting in a box of old coins that someone has been meaning to sort through for years. The thought of that is almost unbearable for a serious collector, and it is what keeps the search alive. The 1979 D. Jefferson 5 cents also holds a special place in the hearts of collectors because of what the year 1979 represents in American numismatic history. It was a transitional year, a year when the mint was beginning to refine its production processes in ways that would eventually lead to higher quality coinage in the decades that followed. It was a year when collector interest in error coins and variety coins was growing rapidly, fueled by the publication of new reference guides and the formation of specialty collector clubs dedicated to the study of Jefferson nickels. And it was a year when the Denver Mint, with its long and proud history of producing coins for the American West and beyond, was operating at a scale and speed that made quality control more challenging than ever. That combination of factors, high production volume, transitional die preparation techniques, and a collector community just beginning to develop the tools to identify and document rare varieties, created the perfect conditions for a coin like the 1979 D to slip through the cracks and enter circulation undetected. The fact that it did, the fact that these coins exist, is a miracle of sorts, a gift from history to the collectors of the future, a reminder that the most extraordinary things sometimes happen by accident. As we bring today's incredible journey through the world of rare Jefferson nickels to a close, I want to leave you with something to think about. You have just learned about two coins, the 1972 Jefferson 5 cents worth $123 million and the 1979 D. Jefferson 5 cent worth $132 million, both of which began their lives as ordinary 5-cent pieces, minted by the billions, spent by the millions, ignored by almost everyone who ever touched them. And yet, in their rarest forms, they represent fortunes beyond imagination. The lesson here is not just about coins. It is about paying attention. It is about slowing down and looking closely at the world around you, because value hides in the most unexpected places. It hides in old coin jars. It hides in inherited collections. It hides in the change you get back from a dollar bill at a convenience store. The next time you hold a nickel in your hand, any nickel, take just one extra second to look at it. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Look for doubling around the portrait and the lettering. Look at the steps on Monticello. Because the difference between 5 cents and $132 million is a difference that only takes 1 second to discover. 1 second that most people never take. Do not be most people. The 1979 D. Jefferson 5 cents is the grand finale of today's story. And what a story it has been. From the bustling mint floors of Philadelphia in 1972 to the roaring presses of Denver in 1979, We have traveled through decades of American history, through economic upheaval and cultural transformation, through the quiet miracle of coins that slipped through the system, carrying fortunes that the world was not yet ready to recognize. These coins are out there. The hunt is real, and your next great discovery might be closer than you ever imagined. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. And remember, Legacy Coins is where history meets fortune, one coin at a time.